Kwanzaa today. December 26th to January 1st. It's a 7-day holiday. Actually, it's really not a holiday in my opinion. It's actually a way of life. Now, this is a celebration that includes giving gifts, dressing up in cultural colors, dancing, playing music, and eating and celebrating. So it's definitely a fun time, and it's not just a holiday, like I said. In my opinion, it's actually a way of living, similar to Christianity, which is also a way of living. It's not a religion, it's not a holiday, it's a way of life. And Kwanzaa, to me, is a way of life. And that's the scary part. It's not just a holiday, it's a way of life and a way of living. And there's a major problem with this way of living that I want to discuss today. Now, Kwanzaa was created in 1966 by Maulana Karenga, Dr. Maulana Karenga. Now, he was actually born Ronald McKinley Everett, July 14th, 1941, previously known as Ron Karenga, before becoming known as Maulana Karenga, Dr. Maulana Karenga. Now, he was an American activist, he was an author, and he was a professor of African studies. And he created this Pan-African holiday known as Kwanzaa. Now, Pan-Africanism is actually a unification of people of African descent. It was actually bought, so many people have actually contributed to this Pan-Africanism ideology. We have Marcus Garvey, who actually created the Pan-African flag with the colors, the black for people, the red for blood, and then the green for land. And I'll get more into that. But you have people like Marcus Garvey, who was actually a Jamaican activist, political activist, and he was also just big on the unification of the black people. And he also declared himself, he was a Jamaican now, but he declared himself provisional president of Africa. So, from Marcus Garvey, and then you have Haile Selassie, all these people, and people like himself, who actually influenced the unification of a black movement, and also an influence of the black people into getting to be more connected with their African roots, African heritage, African culture. And this movement became a way of life back in the became very popular in the 1960s, and especially with the onset of, you had race, and this was a type of a way for the black culture to just separate themselves, to uplift themselves by actually creating some sort of movement, some sort of unification within the race to elevate themselves out of bondage, so to speak. And don't want to say this loosely, but two wrongs don't make a right. I understand, and I can't really say I understand the black struggle, because I was not born during that time. I have not experienced probably half or any of the racial exploitation, just the hurt from that period, the hurt of segregation, the hurt of inequality, and being looked at as a lower class citizen because of color. And this is what I think elevated people, the black race, the black culture, into some sort of elevate, which made the black culture want to elevate themselves to a level to prove themselves worthy of living in this world just like everybody else. And this is where this Pan-Africanism ideology just came to life and just took off. But you have a lot of people who actually twisted this this movement, this way of wanting to excel and be better and show that we are better as a black people. We are just as good, maybe even better. We are here. This is who we are. We are here. Look at us. We are like you. We're no different. This whole ideology, which came from a very good place, became twisted as time went on, and actually segregated people from Christianity. It actually became parallel to Christianity. And this is where the problem comes in. Like I mentioned, people like Marcus Garvey, who created the Pan-African flag, and who actually started and influenced the black movement. And you have people like the Rastafarianism group, the Rastafarians, who actually look up to Marcus Garvey, Haile Selassie, and they have this wanting to actually move back to Africa, move back to their roots, where a lot of Africans were taken from and were enslaved in parts of the Caribbean and in America. And actually, this is where a lot of our roots came from Africa as black people, because slaves were actually taken from Africa and moved and taken to the Caribbean, taken to the United States, and exploited. And people now are trying to bring awareness to this injustice that took place, and trying to get trying to go back to Africa, where their roots are, and trying to actually get compensation for their loss and for their freedom that was taken away from their ancestors. So it's a big movement. And Dr. Karenga, back in the 60s, obviously was caught up in all of this. And as a professor of African studies, I'm sure he wanted to also play his part. And he had, in making the black culture excel and stand out, and be made noticeable to the world. We are here. And I'm sure he wanted to do something different, but this is when people take the passion for wanting justice and hating injustice too far, wanting to prove themselves as a leader of the race, and someone who can actually elevate the race to a higher level. And you have leaders who actually became twisted over time. Even Marcus Garvey himself, who actually was very, like I said, he was a political activist, but he was also a hater of mixed race people. He was a hater of the Jews. He was he had violent tendencies. He was close to the KKK. Who would have thought? I don't even understand that. But and he hated the Jewish race. And this is what I'm talking about with trying to separate the race on a different level, almost to the point where not almost, but to the point where you are actually separating the race from truth and bringing the race into a falsehood. And this is what I want to get into. And it's really deep, and it stems back so far. There are so many people who are involved with Kwanzaa, because they don't want to be a part of Christianity, thinking that Christianity really is a white religion. It was introduced by the Romans. It's part of Catholicism. Did I say it right? It's part of the Roman Church, and it's a white religion, and it's not pertaining to us. And they, and everyone knows that the Romans and the Roman Empire conquered so many nations, including Israel, and actually had really were really bad influencers for modern day society, and because they had so many pagan beliefs that they adapted from the nations that they conquered. Now, a lot of these pagan beliefs had pagan gods. They would adapt the beliefs of these nations, and a lot of these gods had, were a lot of these gods had their birthdays on December 25th, and it goes way back. But the Roman Empire wanted to take December 25th and actually change it into something that was a little bit more safer, good, not so harsh and not so evil. So they decided to adapt the Christian way of the Christian movement that was introduced, when Jesus Christ came into part of their way of life. And this is when the churches started, and this is when the Messiah was actually said to be, let's celebrate the birthday of the Messiah on the 25th instead of the pagan gods. Let's do something that's a little bit more acceptable by people, that isn't so harsh. It wasn't that they actually believed in Christianity and in the Messiah, but it was different. It was a little bit better than celebrating pagan gods on the 25th. So it's really, it was really sort of to save face, to look good. That's introduced this Christianity, this Christian movement, this Messiah. Let's celebrate him on the 25th. So, and this is how Christianity, this is how Christianity came into to be introduced more to the Western culture, the Western world, through something that started off as evil. the evil influence of these other nations was actually changed into something good. Let's celebrate the let's make Christianity now a big thing. Let's celebrate Christianity on the 25th. Let's celebrate the Messiah. And this is how the Romans took Christianity to a different level to the western part of the world. But a lot of blacks and a lot of people in the African cultures feel that it's still a white religion, but actually what the devil had meant for evil, God actually turned this whole thing around for good. And this is how the genius works, the genius of bringing Christianity to the Western world. So what was meant for evil actually turned out for good. But people can't see this. They still think the African culture and the most African religions and also black movements of the 60s and all these pan-Africanism ideologies still feel that Christianity is a white person religion. It was introduced by the Romans to the Western culture, so it can't be good because the Romans weren't any good. But this is just and so now they are trying to make their own religions and their own way of living, their own movements that elevate black culture. Let's bring the African part of it. It's not an Jewish thing. It's actually an African thing. Yes, we know Abraham had children with his Egyptian concubine. Okay, it is. Jesus said, yeah, Egyptians are my people as well. We know this. But Jesus Christ came through from the line of David, which is from the line of Jacob. This is, Jesus was not black. He was not white. He was brown. He was a Jew. And a lot of people can't accept this, that the Messiah was Jewish. He came down in the form of a Jewish man. He became a Jewish man. He was born into the Jewish culture. But when in fact God is spirit and he doesn't have a race. And Jesus and God they are the same. But that's the whole Trinity aspect of it. They are the same. He has no race, but yet he was born into the Jewish culture. He came down as a man born into the Jewish culture. Jesus was a Jewish man. And a lot of people hate the Jews because of the Messiah choosing to be Jewish and came down as the Jewish man. So there's a lot of hatred for the Jews. Why did the Messiah? Why are the Jewish people the chosen people? Now, this leads us to the reality that yes, they were the chosen people, but by their denial of the Messiah as one of their own, we as Gentiles actually now are engraved into the promise of eternal life, and we are one at the cross. Because Jesus died and he shed his blood at the cross, he died for all men. So all men now are saved by the shedding of his blood on the cross. It is not just the Jews, it's the Gentiles, it's everyone. All Jews, not just Jews that are descendant of Jacob. No, all Jews and all men have been saved by the blood of Christ. But it's only now for each individual to accept that gift, because the gift has already been given. We are all one. But Pan-Africanism cannot see that we are all one, and they separate themselves. Now, with that background, I want to get into Kwanzaa. Yeah. And let's get into Kwanzaa, and let's get into the problem with Kwanzaa. Now, just like Marcus Garvey, who hated the Jews, Dr. Karenga did not see the sanctity of who Jesus Christ was. He was not, to him, the Messiah, the Savior. He was not a person to be reverend as the Messiah in his eyes. So just the whole background of the belief of this man who created Kwanzaa should be a red flag to anyone wanting to take part in Kwanzaa, especially to Christians who feel that they want to take Kwanzaa as their religion or as their celebration in the winter holiday months instead of Christmas, because they feel Christmas is a pagan holiday. They have to realize that it's how you celebrate Christmas. Christmas it's not about December 25th. No, we know that Christ, and there's nowhere in Scripture what tells us that Christ was born on the 25th. But we know this was started from pagan roots. But we celebrate Christ. That's the whole thing. We celebrate the Messiah. It's all about him. It's about even though it's now commercialized a lot, but we know as Christians it's about Christ. The thing is with Kwanzaa, it's not about Christ. It's about celebrating ancestors. It's about celebrating the struggle, the blood, the sweat, the tears of their ancestors, of the slaves, of people that the blacks and the Africans that that went through suffering and shed their blood and to get us now to where we are. It's about reverencing ancestors, and this is so wrong on so many levels. In Kwanzaa, they have what they call the kinara, which is a candle holder, and the Nguzo Saba, which are the candles, the 7 candles that each represent the 7 principles, or the I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the Nguzo Saba, which are the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So these 7 candles, the Nguzo Saba, they represent the 7 principles. Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Now, the black candle is in the middle. It represents the people. This is where this black candle is also known as the first principle, which is unity. And this is known as the umoja. The umoja candle. It represents unity. But the black of the candle itself shows you a divide. It shows you a divide of people. When compared with Christianity, Christ said that we're all one at the cross. He died for all mankind. Yet Kwanzaa separates the black race, the African race, people who identify with the African race and the African culture and the black race. This is not unity at all. It's a divide. So this is a red flag. This black candle is used to light the other candles. Are used to light the other candles of the Nguzo Saba, and it's almost like a exact representation of the menorah, the lighting of the menorah. The shamash, which is in Jewish culture, the shamash which is the middle candle. It is used and it is taken to light the other candles. So it's a complete. Even though Dr. Karanga says that he does not even identify with this Jewish culture, yet he copies it. He copies everything about Christianity in the creation of Kwanzaa. And let me explain. The lighting first of the middle candle, the black candle, the lighting of the rest of the candles is a copy of the shamash, the middle candle in the Jewish Hanukkah celebration, lighting the rest of the candles of the menorah, the 9-flamed menorah. Now the candles are different. In Kwanzaa, you have 3 red candles, and then you have 3 green candles, with the black candle in the middle. And it's so strange. Of the 3 candles, you have the green candles, which are represented by Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility, Nia, which is purpose, and Imani, which is faith. Imani and Nia are concerned to me. Purpose and faith. Purpose, Nia, Imani, faith are represented by the green candles, not even by the red candles. Not even by the red candles, even though the red candles don't even stand for the blood of Christ, the suffering of Christ. No, it stands for the suffering of the ancestors, of the slaves. And Imani, faith, is the last principle is the last principle of the Nguzo Saba. The last principle is not the first principle. It's the last principle, and it's not even represented by the blood. You see the almost the copy. Well, it's a copying of Christianity, but it's a total, almost, as let me get as far away from Christianity as possible. Just it's just the opposite of Christianity, but it follows, it copies the whole principles done, the ways that Christianity follows, but it's the total opposite. The rituals are just totally opposite. These rituals are almost a satanic. These are satanic rituals. Kwanzaa is like a cult, and a lot of people can't even see it. And I'm not hating on people that follow Kwanzaa, because these people have a passion to excel the race, to unify the race, the black race, the African, to bring back awareness of African culture, and that black people were treated so unfairly and so inhumanely, and it's a passion to identify to bring awareness to the black race, and to unify the black race, and to build up the black race. So I understand this passion, but you have to understand that the way Dr. Karenga created this holiday is a satanic influence.